The stars shimmered against the vast blackness of space as the Vexari scout ship cut silently through the void. Commander Kazark stood on the bridge, his scaled skin reflecting the glow of the control panels. His amber eyes narrowed as he studied the blue-green planet on the main screen. Another hunting ground, he growled to his second-in-command. This one looks promising. For thousands of years, the Vexari had ruled the galaxy as its ultimate predators. They had evolved from vicious pack hunters on their home world, with natural weapons that made them unstoppable. Razor-sharp claws, teeth that could tear through metal, enhanced senses, and incredible strength. Their entire civilization was built on a simple principle: the strong consume the weak. Zark had personally led the conquest of 12 worlds. The routine was always the same: scout the planet, assess the threat level, and prepare for harvest. His claws clicked against the metallic floor as he approached the data station. "Tell me about these humans," he said. The science officer, a younger Vexari with lighter scales, displayed the collected information on the screen. "Physically weak, Commander. No natural armor, no claws, limited sensory capabilities. They require tools for everything." Kazark snorted. "Another easy harvest, then. There is one unusual factor," the science officer added. "They have no unified planetary government. They fight among themselves constantly." This made Kazark's mouth twist into what passed for a smile among his kind. "Even better. Divided prey is easy prey. Set course for closer observation. I want to capture a few specimens before we call in the main fleet." The Vexari ship accelerated toward the Sol system, passing the gas giants on the outer rim. They slowed as they approached the fifth planet from the sun, with its distinctive rings. Their cloaking technology had never failed them before. No species they had encountered had ever detected a Vexari scout ship. Lieutenant Jack Freeman yawned as he guided his patrol vessel through its regular route near Jupiter's orbit. At 32, Jack was considered one of the most experienced pilots in Earth's newly formed Space Defense Force. His small ship, though armed, was primarily designed for monitoring the early warning systems placed throughout the outer solar system. "Another boring patrol," he muttered to himself, taking a sip of coffee from his insulated cup. The ship's computer ran continuous scans of the surrounding space, a precaution many of his colleagues considered excessive. Earth had never encountered alien life, though many believed it must exist somewhere in the vast universe. A soft beep from the console interrupted Jack's thoughts. "What's that?" he said, putting down his coffee and leaning forward. The scanner had detected an anomaly, a slight distortion in space about 50,000 kilometers away. The computer couldn't identify it, but something was definitely there. Jack's training kicked in. He opened a general broadcast channel. "Unidentified vessel near Jupiter's third moon. This is Earth Defense Patrol EP-117. Please identify yourself." No response came through his communications system. Jack repeated the message, on different frequencies, but the silence continued. The anomaly, however, was moving, adjusting its course to approach his position. "Control, this is Lieutenant Freeman," Jack said, switching to his secure channel back to Earth. "I've detected an unidentified object near my position. No response. To communications. Requesting instructions." The reply took nearly 8 minutes to reach him from Earth, the limitations of light-speed communications. "Lieutenant Freeman, maintain observation distance and continue attempts at contact. Avoid any actions that could be perceived as aggressive." Jack acknowledged the order, but something felt wrong. The anomaly was now clearly moving toward him, accelerating. His scanner suddenly picked up an energy surge from the unidentified object. "That's a weapons system powering up," Jack whispered, his heart racing. He had seconds to make a decision. The standard protocol was clear: maintain peace, avoid confrontation. But Jack had spent enough time in space to trust his instincts, and every instinct he had was screaming danger. Jack fired up his engines and executed a sharp, evasive maneuver just as a burst of energy sliced through the space where his ship had been moments before. Without hesitation, he activated his ship's modest defensive systems and fired back. Commander Kazark couldn't believe what he was seeing. The primitive human vessel had not only detected their presence despite their advanced cloaking technology, but had also evaded their first attack. This was unprecedented. "Impossible," he snarled. "Their technology should be centuries behind ours." The science officer looked equally confused. "The data must be wrong, Commander. They shouldn't have—" Before he could finish, the ship rocked violently. Warning alarms blared throughout the bridge. "We've been hit," the tactical officer shouted. "The human weapon somehow penetrated our shields." Kazark steadied himself against his command chair. "Return fire. Destroy that pest." The Vixari weapons officer fired again, but the human ship moved with unexpected agility, spinning and accelerating in patterns that made no sense, until Kazark realized with shock that they were watching a strategy unfold. The human wasn't just randomly dodging. He was drawing them into a position. Another impact rocked the scout ship. This time, the damage was significant. "Engine systems damaged," reported the engineer. "Shield generator failing." Kazark couldn't process what was happening. Their ship was technologically superior in every way. The humans were supposed to be primitive, easy prey. "Retreat," he ordered, his voice low with humiliation. "Back to safe distance." As the damaged scout ship limped away, Kazark stared at the view screen showing the small human vessel that had just accomplished what no species had done in centuries, fought back successfully against a Vixari attack. "This changes everything," he said quietly. "These humans are not like the others." Jack watched as the formerly invisible ship, now partially visible due to damage to what must be its cloaking system, retreated from the battle. His hands were still shaking as he activated his communication system. "Control, this is Lieutenant Freeman. You're not going to believe this, but I just engaged an alien spacecraft." He transmitted all the data he had collected during the brief, but intense battle. As he waited for Earth's response, Jack gazed out at the stars. The universe had just become a much more dangerous place, and humanity had just fought its first interstellar battle. What Jack couldn't know was that his quick thinking and unconventional tactics had just saved Earth from being classified as easy prey. The galaxy's most feared predators had just learned that this new species might be physically weaker, but they possessed something potentially more dangerous: the ability to outthink a superior enemy. Humanity was about to show the galaxy-wide predators should fear their prey. The news of Lieutenant Jack Freeman's encounter spread across Earth like wildfire. In just 24 hours, humanity learned they were not alone in the universe, and their first contact had been hostile. In Washington, D.C., President Samantha Howard stared at the images from Jack's ship displayed on the large screen in the White House Situation Room. The footage showed the brief battle and the alien ship's retreat. Around the table sat military leaders, scientists, and government officials, all silent as they processed what they were seeing. "So it's real," President Howard finally said. "We've made first contact and they shot first." Admiral Ben Carter, head of the Space Defense Force, nodded grimly. Lieutenant Freeman's quick thinking saved his life. If he had followed standard protocol and not fired back, we wouldn't even know what happened to him. "What can you tell us about these aliens?" the president asked, turning to a woman with gray-streaked hair pulled into a tight bun. Dr. Alice Winters, the nation's leading xenobiologist, stepped forward. Though she had spent her career theorizing about alien life, nothing had prepared her for actual contact. "From the limited visual data we have, they appear reptilian," she explained. The damaged sections of their ship revealed biological components mixed with mechanical ones. Their technology is far beyond ours. Paul Martinez, a NASA analyst with thick glasses and a rumpled shirt, raised his hand. "Madam President, we've detected similar energy signatures to their ship in other parts of the solar system. They're not alone." The room fell silent again. "How many?" Admiral Carter asked. "At least 7 ships, all maintaining distance just beyond Mars," Paul replied. "Based on their movement patterns, I believe they're waiting for something. Possibly reinforcements." President Howard stood up and walked to the window. Outside, people went about their day, unaware that everything had changed. "We need to tell the world," she said firmly. "And we need every nation working together. This isn't an American problem, it's a human problem. Within hours, leaders from every country received the same information. For the first time in human history, old enemies set aside their differences in the face of an external threat. The United Nations convened an emergency session, and the Earth Defense Initiative was born. Jack Freeman found himself suddenly famous as the first human to engage with alien life. Military officials debriefed him for hours, analyzing every second of the encounter. "I still don't understand how I damaged their ship," Jack explained to a room full of scientists and military personnel. "My weapons shouldn't have been able to penetrate their technology." Dr. Winters tapped her tablet. "We think it was luck, but useful luck. Your targeting computer happened to hit a junction between their biological and mechanical components, a weakness we couldn't have known about. These Vexari, as they call themselves, we intercepted some of their communications. They've never encountered resistance," Admiral Carter added. "That's why they weren't prepared for you to fight back." Jack frowned. "How do you know they're called Vexari? And how do you know they've never encountered resistance?" The Admiral exchanged glances with Dr. Winters before answering. "We captured something from the damaged ship, data packets. Dr. Winters' team has been translating them." Dr. Winters took over. "The Vexari are predators, Lieutenant. They've conquered hundreds of species across the galaxy. They don't just invade, they consume. Literally. We're not just facing invasion, we're facing harvest." Jack felt sick as the implications sank in. "How much time do we have?" "Based on the communications, we've intercepted their main fleet is months away," the Admiral said. "But the scout ships already here could attack at any time." Around the world, humanity mobilized with unprecedented unity and speed. In factories from Detroit to Shanghai, production lines switched from cars to weapons. University laboratories worked around the clock studying the alien technology recovered from the damaged scout ship. Olivia Garcia, a brilliant engineer from Mexico City, led a team adapting the alien tech. "Their biological components are the key," she explained to a group of scientists. "They've evolved their technology to work with their bodies. It's both their greatest strength and their greatest weakness." In military bases across the globe, soldiers trained for a war unlike any they had fought before. General Ryan Kim oversaw the biggest military mobilization in human history. "We can't match their strength or their technology," he told his international team of officers. "But we have something they don't expect: creativity. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know how to be unpredictable." Millions of light years away on the Vexari homeworld, Commander Xark stood before the High Command. His wounds from the battle with the human ship had healed, but his pride had not. "These humans are different," he insisted to the circle of elder Vexari, their scales duller with age but their eyes still sharp with hunger. "They detected us through our cloaking. They damaged our ship. They fought back." High Commander Vex Thule, the oldest and largest of the Vexari, let out a dismissive growl. "One lucky shot from one small ship does not make these creatures a threat. Your failure is noted, Commander Xark." "My failure may have saved countless Vexari lives," Xark argued. "A dangerous breach of protocol. If we treat this species like any other, we will suffer losses we have not experienced in generations." The High Command chamber fell silent at this outburst. Challenging the assessment of a superior could result in being consumed. The Vexari way of removing failure from their ranks. Vexthul rose to his full height, towering over Xark. "You have grown soft, Commander. Perhaps too many easy conquests have dulled your predator instincts. The main fleet will proceed as planned. These humans will be assessed, harvested, and consumed like all the others." Xark lowered his head in submission, but his mind raced. The Vexari had never encountered a species that thought like humans did. For the first time in his long career as a conqueror, Xark felt something alien to his kind: doubt. Back on Earth, President Howard addressed the world in a historic broadcast. Billions watched as she revealed the full truth about the alien threat. "Citizens of Earth," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words, "we face the greatest challenge in human history. An alien species called the Vexari has targeted our planet. They have conquered many worlds before ours, and they believe we will be an easy victory." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "They are wrong. Humanity has never united before, as we are uniting now. We have never faced a common enemy of this magnitude, but make no mistake, while they see us as prey, they will learn that humans are not easy to hunt." Across Earth, people listened with fear, but also determination. In homes, schools, factories, and military bases, humanity prepared for a war that would determine their very survival. The predators were coming, but for the first time in galactic history, the prey was ready to fight back. The sky over New York City turned dark as the massive Vexari ships broke through the clouds. People ran screaming through the streets as strange pods rained down from above. The invasion of Earth had begun. Frank Diaz, a police officer for 15 years, guided terrified civilians toward subway entrances. "Keep moving, get underground," he shouted, his service weapon drawn though he knew it would likely be useless against the aliens. One of the pods crashed nearby, cracking open to reveal 3 tall reptilian figures. Their scaled skin gleamed in the morning sun as they stepped out, each easily 7 feet tall with powerful limbs and razor-sharp claws. They carried devices that looked like guns but with organic components. "Prey," one of them hissed, pointing the weapon at a group of frozen civilians. Frank fired his gun, but the bullets bounced off the alien's tough hide. The lead Vexari turned toward him and fired its weapon. Instead of a bullet or laser beam, a cloud of green mist sprayed out. The civilians caught in it immediately collapsed, paralyzed but conscious, their eyes wide with terror. Frank rolled behind a car, narrowly avoiding the spray. He grabbed his radio. "Dispatch! They're using some kind of paralytic agent. Bullets. Don't work." As he watched, the Vexari began dragging the paralyzed humans toward their pod. Frank noticed something strange. An elderly woman who had been caught in the spray was slowly moving her fingers. She had been taking medicine when the attack happened and an epinephrine pen had fallen nearby. Frank connected the dots. "Adrenaline," he whispered. He quickly called in his discovery as he backed away to help other civilians. Within hours, emergency services across the world distributed adrenaline shots to counteract the Vexari paralytic agent. It wasn't perfect, but it gave humans a fighting chance to escape. Similar scenes played out in cities around the world. The Vexari invasion plan followed their standard protocol: paralyze the population, load them onto ships, and process them for consumption. But everywhere they went, they encountered unexpected resistance. In rural Montana, Maria Gonzalez, a local hunting guide, watched from the forest edge as a Vexari patrol moved through a small town. Unlike most people, she didn't run. Instead, she observed, noting how the aliens moved, where they looked, and when they seemed most alert. Maria gathered a group of locals, farmers, hunters, and a few veterans. "They're predators," she explained. "They rely on their strength and their senses, but every predator has blind spots." The next day, when the Vexari patrol returned, they walked into an ambush. Maria and her makeshift militia had set traps using hunting techniques passed down for generations. They attacked from multiple angles, aiming for the joints and eyes where the alien scales seemed thinner. 3 Vexari fell before the others retreated, stunned by the organized resistance from what they had considered easy prey. In the laboratories of the Earth Defense Initiative, Dr. Alice Winters made a breakthrough. She had been studying Vexari biology from the remains of those killed in battle. "Their hearing range is much wider than ours," she explained to a team of military scientists. "They evolved as hunters, so they can hear frequencies we can't, but that makes them vulnerable." Within days, EDI teams equipped special forces with sonic weapons, tuned to frequencies that disoriented the Vexari without affecting humans. In Chicago, Captain Eric Johnson led a SEAL team armed with these new weapons into a Vexari processing center. The result was immediate. When the sonic weapons activated, the Vexari warriors dropped to their knees, clutching their heads in pain. Captain Johnson's team moved through the facility, freeing hundreds of captured humans before destroying the building. "They thought we were just prey," Johnson told his team afterward. "They didn't expect prey to fight back like this." In orbit above Earth, the first major space battle began. The USS Defiance, a former research vessel hastily retrofitted with technology reverse-engineered from Vexari scout ships, approached the alien fleet. Commander Diane Scott stood on the bridge, her expression determined. "All hands, battle stations. Remember your training." The Vexari dreadnought dwarfed the human ship, but Commander Scott had studied ancient naval warfare, specifically how smaller vessels had defeated larger ones throughout human history. "Full power to forward shields," she ordered. "Prepare for attack pattern Delta." The Defiance darted toward the massive alien ship, moving erratically in a way the Vexari targeting systems couldn't predict. Human weapons, enhanced with Vexari technology, struck key points on the dreadnought. The alien ship returned fire, but Commander Scott had positioned the Defiance in the dreadnought's blind spot, a tactic from submarine warfare that no spacefaring species would think to use. "They've never fought anyone who thinks like we do," she told her crew. "They've evolved as predators, but humans evolved as both predator and prey. We know both sides of the hunt." The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the Vexari dreadnought drifted powerless in orbit, and the Defiance had suffered damage but remained operational. It was the first major victory for humanity in space. High Commander Vex Thule received the reports from Earth with growing rage. Half his invasion fleet had been destroyed or disabled. Ground forces were meeting fierce resistance. The paralytic weapons that had subdued dozens of species were being countered. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his war council. "They are physically inferior. Their technology is primitive." Commander Xark, who had warned of the humans' capabilities, spoke carefully. "They think differently, High Commander. They adapt faster than any species we've encountered, and they work together in ways we don't understand." Vex Thule slammed, his clawed fist on the table. "They are food, not equals. I will lead the next wave myself. We will not be defeated by prey." But as he issued orders for a larger invasion force, an uncomfortable feeling grew within him, one that no Vexari had experienced in thousands of years of conquest. Doubt. Back on Earth, despite the victories, the cost had been high. Millions were dead or captured. Cities lay in ruins. But humanity had done what the Vexari thought impossible. They had survived the first wave of the invasion. In a bunker beneath what remained of Washington, D.C., President Howard met with the EDI leadership. The room was filled with maps, screens showing battle reports, and tired but determined faces. "We've proven we can fight them," she said. "Now we need to prove we can win." Admiral Carter nodded. "We've studied their attack patterns now. They're predictable. They've never needed to change tactics before, but we have something they don't." "What's that?" asked General Kim. "A history of fighting amongst ourselves," the Admiral answered grimly. "Thousands of years of warfare have taught humans how to outthink enemies. Now we use that knowledge against them." As the meeting continued, the first reports came in of Vexari ships retreating from Earth orbit. The predators were pulling back to regroup, giving humanity precious time to prepare for the next phase of the war. For the first time since the invasion began, there was hope. The hunters had become uncertain, and the hunted had shown their teeth. 1 year after the first Vexari attack, Earth looked very different. Cities had built massive shield generators. Military bases dotted landscapes that once held farms or parks. Every human old enough to hold a weapon had learned basic defense tactics. In a small lab at MIT, Kevin Wright stared at his computer screen. The 22-year-old college student had always been good with patterns. When the war started, he joined a team analyzing Vexari attack strategies. "I think I've got something," he told his professor, pushing his glasses up his nose. "They always attack in the same sequence, like they're following a playbook they've used for thousands of years." Kevin's algorithm predicted Vexari movements, with 87% accuracy. Within weeks, defense forces around the world were using it to prepare for attacks before they happened. The Vexari couldn't understand how the humans always seemed to know where they would strike next. In Florida, retired engineer Linda Nelson worked with a team to improve shield technology. At 68, she had been ready for a quiet retirement before the invasion. The Vexari shields are biological, not just mechanical, she explained to military officials. They adapt to energy weapons, but they're vulnerable to rapidly changing frequencies. Linda's shield generator design could protect entire cities. When the Vexari attacked San Francisco with their most powerful weapons, the shields held. The aliens retreated in confusion, unable to comprehend how their prey had developed technology that had taken the Vexari centuries to perfect. The global economy had transformed completely to support the war effort. Car factories now produced armored vehicles. Clothing manufacturers made specialized protective gear. Pharmaceutical companies created medicines to counter Vexari biological weapons. What amazed visiting military officials from around the world was the speed of innovation. Humans improved their weapons and defenses weekly, sometimes daily. Ideas spread rapidly, with scientists and engineers sharing breakthroughs instantly across global networks. This pace of adaptation confused the Vexari, who had evolved in a society where change happened slowly over generations. They couldn't understand how a species could learn and improve so quickly. In Paris, the Vexari launched a massive attack, hoping to break human morale by destroying a cultural center. They succeeded in breaching the city's defenses, and the Eiffel Tower fell amid clouds of smoke and fire. The response was not what the Vexari expected. Instead of fear, the attack sparked fury. Within hours, a coordinated global counterattack began. Human forces struck Vexari bases around the world simultaneously, using the attack patterns Kevin had predicted. Admiral Diane Scott, now in command of Earth's growing space fleet, led a daring assault on the Vexari command ship in orbit. Using tactics inspired by ancient pirates, striking fast, causing confusion, and disappearing before the enemy could respond, her ships inflicted heavy damage before retreating. They still think like predators, she told her crew. They expect prey to run or freeze. They don't expect us to turn and fight on our terms. The Vexari, facing unprecedented losses, grew desperate. High Commander Vexthul ordered attacks on civilian targets, hoping to break human will. But each attack only strengthened Earth's resolve. Commander Kazark, watching from his ship, saw what his leaders could not. They don't understand humans, he told his second-in-command privately. Every time we hurt them, they become stronger, more united. As a veteran of many conquest campaigns, Kazark recognized something his superiors refused to see. The Vexari were losing this war, not because humans were physically stronger, but because they adapted faster than any species the Vexari had ever encountered. On Earth, Admiral Scott proposed a bold plan to the Earth Defense Council. We've been playing defense long enough. It's time to take the fight to them. Her plan was daring. Use captured Vexari ships to travel to one of their nearby colony worlds. A small team would gather intelligence about Vexari society and search for weaknesses. It's dangerous, President Howard warned. If you're captured, there's no rescue possible. Admiral Scott nodded. We understand the risks, Madam President, but we need to know more about them if we're going to end this war. The mission was approved. Using 3 captured Vexari scouts, a joint military scientific team left Earth's solar system, the first humans to travel to another star. After 3 weeks of faster-than-light travel, the human expedition reached the Vexari colony world of Corvus. From orbit, they could see a planet transformed by Vexari occupation, vast processing centers where captured species were held before being transported to the Vexari homeworld. Scientist Greg Patterson led the research team that secretly landed on the surface. What they discovered horrified even the battle-hardened soldiers accompanying them. They're not just predators, Patterson reported back to the orbiting ship. They're collectors. They're storing genetic material from every species they've conquered. In a massive underground facility, the humans found thousands of containers holding DNA samples from species long extinct, civilizations the Vexari had completely consumed. This explains their technological development, Patterson continued. They don't invent, they harvest. They take the best adaptations from each species they conquer and incorporate them into their own biology. This revelation changed everything. The team gathered all the data they could before returning to their ships and beginning the journey home. On Earth, Dr. Alice Winters made her own discovery while studying captured Vexari. She had noticed strange cellular structures that didn't match the rest of their biology. "They're parasites," she announced to the stunned Earth Defense Council. "They don't just eat other species, they incorporate their DNA. That's why their technology seems so advanced, but hasn't progressed in thousands of years. Why innovate when you can simply consume the innovations of others?" The implications were enormous. The Vexari weren't just fighting for food, they were fighting for genetic material to enhance themselves. Humanity wasn't just prey, they were a resource to be harvested and absorbed. Admiral Scott's team returned with confirming evidence and something more: the location of the Vexari homeworld. For the first time, Earth's leaders began to consider a strategy beyond mere survival. "We need to take this fight to them," General Kim said, pointing to the star map showing the Vexari home system. "Not to destroy them, but to force them to recognize us as equals, not food." President Howard looked around the table at the tired but determined faces of Earth's defenders. "We've always been explorers as much as warriors. Now we'll be both. Prepare the fleet." As Earth prepared for its most ambitious mission yet, Commander Kazark, now a prisoner of war, made an unexpected offer. "I will help you," he told his human captors. "My people's way is unsustainable. I've seen how humans fight, not just with weapons, but with ideas. Perhaps it's time for the Vexari to learn a new way to exist in this galaxy." The stage was set for humanity's greatest challenge, taking the fight to the heart of the Predator Empire that had never known defeat. The journey to the Vexari homeworld took 3 months. Earth's fleet, a mix of human ships and captured Vexari vessels, traveled deeper into the galaxy than any humans had gone before. Admiral Diane Scott stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Defiance, as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vexari home system. "My God," she whispered as the main screen showed the space around the Vexari sun. Around her, the bridge crew stared in shocked silence. The system was filled with structures, space stations, shipyards, and orbital habitats larger than Earth. Cities. Thousands of ships moved between them like insects around a hive. Commander Zark, now serving as an advisor to the humans, stood beside Admiral Scott. "The heart of our empire," he said quietly, "built from the bones of 100 conquered worlds." Admiral Scott turned to her communications officer. "Send the message." A transmission went out from the human fleet, broadcasting simultaneously, in all frequencies and languages that the Vexari used. It was simple and direct. Earth proposed peace, not as prey, but as equals. They demanded the release of all captured humans and an end to the harvest of sentient species. The response came swiftly. A massive Vexari dreadnought approached, dwarfing even the largest ships in the human fleet. On the main screen, the scaled face of High Commander Vex Thule appeared, his amber eyes filled with contempt. "Prey does not dictate terms to predators," he hissed. "Your journey ends here, humans. Your genetic material will strengthen the Vexari for generations to come." Admiral Scott had expected this response. "Then we do this the hard way," she said, cutting the transmission. She turned to her tactical officer. "Execute Operation Spear." The human fleet split into smaller groups, each targeting different Vexari installations. It seemed suicidal. The Vexari outnumbered them 20 to 1. But humans had spent 2 years studying Vexari tactics and technology. They knew things about the alien ships that even the Vexari had forgotten. Earth's vessels darted between the slower Vexari ships, using their predictable attack patterns against them. Human weapons targeted specific weak points identified in Vexari design. Each hit was precise and devastating. While the main fleet engaged the Vexari defenses, Admiral Scott led a smaller team toward the planet in a stealth vessel designed using principles learned from Earth's deep-sea submarines. Their target was the Central Hive, the heart of Vexari government and the location of High Commander Vex Thule. "Remember," she told her team as they approached the planet, "our goal isn't extermination. We're here to force a new understanding." The Surface of the Vexari homeworld was a strange mix of technology and biology. Buildings looked as if they had been grown rather than built, with organic shapes and surfaces that pulsed with life. Streets were filled with Vexari of different sizes and colors. The military caste with their dark scales, the worker caste smaller and lighter, and the rare leader caste, larger than the others with vibrant patterns on their hides. Using Xark's knowledge, the human team infiltrated the central hive. They moved quietly through corridors that seemed more like arteries than hallways. The few Vexari they encountered were quickly subdued with sonic weapons tuned to frequencies that disrupted their nervous systems without killing them. They reached the central chamber where the High Command gathered. Admiral Scott gave the signal, and flashbang grenades designed specifically for Vexari sensory systems went off, temporarily blinding and deafening the alien leaders. When the High Command regained their senses, they found themselves surrounded by armed humans. High Commander Vex Thule roared with fury but stopped when he saw Commander Xark among the humans. "Traitor," he snarled. "You side with prey against your own kind?" Xark stepped forward. "They are not prey, High Commander. They are the future. I have learned more from humans in 2 years than in centuries among our own people." Admiral Scott approached Vex Thule without fear, looking up at the massive predator. "You've conquered hundreds of worlds because those species weren't ready for you. We were. Humans evolved differently than any species you've encountered." "As prey," Vex Thule spat. "As persistence hunters," Scott corrected him. "On Earth, early humans didn't have claws or fangs or poison. We had endurance. We would chase prey for days until they collapsed from exhaustion. We learned patience, adaptation, and cooperation." She gestured to her team. "We're not stronger than you individually, but together, we're something you've never faced before." At that moment, reports came in from space. The human fleet had disabled the Vexari defense network using strategies no predator would consider, sacrificing positions to gain advantages, using smaller ships to protect larger ones, coordinating in ways the hierarchical Vexari couldn't understand. "You have a choice," Admiral Scott told Vex Thule. "Continue this war and watch your empire crumble, or recognize that the galaxy has changed. The age of the predator is over." For the first time in his long life, Vex Thule felt something new, respect for prey. He looked at the humans surrounding him, seeing not food but equals. "What do you propose, human?" he asked, his voice lower. 1 year later, Earth hosted the first Galactic Concord Summit. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the rebuilt United Nations headquarters in New York. Some were former victims of Vexari conquest, now free for the first time in generations. Others were species that had hidden from the predators, emerging now that the galaxy was changing. President Samantha Howard stood at the podium with Commander Xark, now Ambassador Xark, beside her. Together they signed the historic treaty, establishing new laws for interspecies relations. The most important, no sentient species would be prey for another. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," President Howard said to the assembled delegates. "Humanity's journey to the stars began with conflict, but it continues in peace." In the audience, Lieutenant Jack Freeman, now a diplomat and Earth's representative to the conquered, listened with pride. His small act of defiance against the Vexari scout ship had triggered a chain of events that transformed the galaxy. After the ceremony, Jack spoke with Ambassador Xark. "Did you ever imagine it would end this way?" Jack asked the former Vexari commander. Xark's mouth formed what humans now recognized as a smile. "Never. My people thought nothing could challenge us until we met humans. You taught us something we had forgotten in our millennia as predators." "What's that?" Jack asked. "That true strength comes not from consuming others but from growing together," Xark replied. "The Vexari feared nothing until we encountered humanity, and humanity's greatest gift to us wasn't defeating us. It was showing us a better way to exist among the stars." As the sun set over New York, ships from a dozen worlds orbited peacefully above. The galaxy had changed forever because one species had refused to be prey, and in doing so, had freed predator and prey alike from an endless cycle of consumption. The hunters had become builders. The hunted had become teachers. and together, they looked toward a future where strength came from cooperation rather than conquest.